Good afternoon to one and all present here. I'm Sirisha Nag, head of the Alumni Club from Batch 23, and I'll be your host for today's Alumni Interaction session. Firstly, I'd like to thank everyone for joining in, and I'd like to request the guests to kindly switch on their videos. SCMC is India's premium mass communication college, offering specialization in journalism, audiovisual production, public relations, and advertising, with in-depth coursework, immersive projects, internships, and much more. For all those overthinking cats out there, this session is primarily for giving direction to your anxieties over future career options. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce our beloved alumni, our guest speakers for the day. Divya. She specialized in journalism at SCMC and did her master's in marketing from Trinity Business School. Divya currently works as a senior account executive at an independent marketing agency, The Public House in Dublin. Her clients include Cadbury and Media Hill. Akanksha. After specializing in AV communication at SCMC in 2019, she started her MFA in cinematography at the American Film Institute Conservatory in Los Angeles, California. She's currently based in LA and works as a cinematographer and AC in narrative films, commercials, and music videos. She's driven towards subtle visual narratives and enjoys working with practical special effects. Gazal, she's a PhD researcher at London School of Economics and Political Science, studying the relationship between majoritarian violence and social media. At SCMC, she specialized in journalism, a dream career growing up that she has now transitioned out of. Although she just finished teaching a journalism module for LSE summer school. Her wavering hobbies relate to photography, cinema, and travel. But she's steeped in reality TV, shy, and perpetually changing the deck of her living spaces to help escape the uncertain world around us. So we now start with a few questions for the panel. So starting off, can you share when you decided to pursue a career in the media industry and what your SCMC journey was like? We could start with Divya.
Sure. Hi. I think for me, I decided to do media or especially marketing much later, but the media industry in itself, I think I was 16 when I was browsing through colleges when I came across SCMC, and I really loved the curriculum, and that's when I decided that I wanted to go ahead with that. SCMC and my journey, well, it was a very intensive 3 years. We had the same as you guys, internships, 12 exams in 6 days. So yeah, I think it was very intensive, but it also was filled with learnings and experiences. And I think I cherish my 3 years there more than anything.
That's great to hear. We can maybe move with Gazal.
Thank you. I think as I mentioned in one of the descriptions, I think I wanted to be a journalist since probably middle school. The ability to ask questions in society just mattered a lot. And I think since then, my journey with SCMC was pretty straightforward. I think I'll be grateful for the fact that it gave me exactly what I wanted then, which is to get just like, an on-the-ground view of what it is like to be a journalist through whether it's assignments or internships. I also, I think got interested in visual storytelling, and everybody would tease me at SCMC that I'm about to pick AV, but I stuck to journalism. And yeah, that's mostly it.
Okay. And what about you, Akanksha?
Yeah, thank you. I think since high school, I was always fascinated by photography and films, and I was really lucky to be encouraged by my mentors and my teachers to pursue it. And I realized that film combined a lot of my interests. Like I was like editing videos before I knew what film was. So I think it was a pretty natural step for me to go into media and specifically AV. SCMC was very challenging. It was a very rigorous schedule, as I'm sure you all know. But it really did prepare me for the film industry and what life after college was like. I hate to say that, but it's true. And it taught me a lot of independence. It taught me, being creative while under pressure. I think those things were really valuable at SCMC.
Okay. Talking about life after college, how did you come to decide that you had to pursue a master's degree? Because people usually are confused whether to study or, venture out in the industry and do an internship or work for a couple of years. So, like, how did you decide, and when did you decide to do a master's degree? Like, did you do it immediately after your graduation at SCMC, or did you take a time off? How did that go? I'm directing this question to Akanksha.
So after college, I think I took about a month to breathe, because obviously the program is crazy and you need to recover from it. I took that month to rest and then figure out my next steps. I knew I wanted to pursue cinematography. This is something I found out when I was studying in SCMC, but I realized I didn't have enough understanding of the discipline. I did get the experience at internships, but I needed to study more. But I didn't have any contacts in the film industry either. So I knew I wanted to do a master's, but it would take about a year and a half to do that. So while I was researching and applying to schools, I was also working full-time in a production house in Bangalore.
Oh, nice. So there wasn't any set requirement in terms of work experience that you had to meet before doing your master's?
Most schools will not have that, but it's very valuable to have professional experience before you go into your master's.
Okay. Okay, thank you. What about you, Divya?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
So basically, I just asked her, when did you decide to pursue your master's degree? Was it right after college, or did you take your time off, work in the industry?
I did as my bio said, I specialized in journalism, and during that I did 2 internships in 2 magazines in Bombay. One was Verve and one was Savvy, and so I thought I wanted to do lifestyle journalism, but I needed to improve my writing as well. I got a job right after undergrad, and I started off as a content writer at this very small boutique agency in Gurgaon, which had about 5-6 people. And so because of the shortage of people, I slowly moved on to account management and strategy. And that's where I found that I'm good at, and I really like what I'm doing. So, but again, as Akanksha said, that it also made me realize that I do not have enough of a skill set. I know there's a lot that you can learn on the job, and you do, but there's also a master's which teaches you a lot more than what you would do on the job as a 21-year-old. So I think I worked for 3 years before I did go for my master's. So I think maybe in my second year, at the beginning of when I started at another agency, is when I finally decided that I would do my master's. And that's when I started looking at schools, and Trinity Business School came across, and I did really like what their course is. So
that's nice. And you, Gazal?
Thank you. So for me, I think I started thinking of wanting to do a master's around second year. I'd always been a bit I think just I like studying, strange to say.
Okay.
And I was a humanities student in school, so I think in a way I missed out on having one discipline that I study. I think the reasons for me wanting to do a master's degree they were both having to do with the environment in India with journalism, which I saw up close with internships, in terms of I think the working culture plus the political environment and the stifling of it. So as well as the pay and finances, which I think most young people are sort of expected to do the grunt work for 4 or 5 years in this industry before you get to any stability, and there's been layoffs and recession. So I hope that if there are journal people in the audience, I hope I'm not freaking you out. But it's just that I think your training will always matter, and most of my batchmates are doing wonderfully for themselves. So I don't mean that I should not have studied journalism. I think it helped me provide other clarity about what meaningful things I might want to do. So yeah, I think for me, I wanted to do something that would give me a bit more stability while staying in the social sciences, because I know that PR and all that is always an option, and it's always an option for all of you listening. And I guess I wanted to, I mean, the course I could think of was this master's in conflict studies at LSE. Or I knew that I wanted to study violence or conflict or political violence because it's such a staple of journalism. I wanted to be able to know about it at a deeper level because, we report about it, but I think it can be short-sighted at times, editorially amongst newsrooms. And I did not do my master's immediately after college. I took sort of a year in between. And I guess even the second or third year, I had this awareness that a pure political science department at LSE might not want me if it's just a journalism degree, because they're not going to have like a reason to. So I searched up programs and I found this diploma at Lady Shri Ram College in Delhi, which is part-time, which has to do with conflict transformation and peace building, almost similar to my master's. So I enrolled in that and I tried to work part-time. And it happened to work out. I mean, I don't know if they would have taken me just a journalism degree, but for me, because I wanted to branch out, I think having like a bridge diploma or something in the middle really helped.
So did your part-time job experience count as work experience?
I think for my degree, they did not care as much about my part-time experience because it wasn't directly in political consulting, let's say, or in government, which was my department. But I think it did count overall. I think my internships really counted because, at least in the UK, I think we might discuss that later, is that it's your personal statements that matter a lot. And I think it's my experiences during my internships and my job that gave me the sort of, jumping grounds or talking points about why I'm interested in conflict. And I think it helped provide an authenticity to all of it. Because even though I did not have a politics study background, I'd seen it come alive in, trying to do journalism.
Okay. Coming to the requirements that one needs to apply for masters, what is the application process like? And what are the things one should keep in mind before applying abroad for a master's degree? Like in terms of resume or such. Divya, you can go ahead with this.
Most universities are pretty straightforward. They do have a checklist and they will tell you everything that you need. You do need to get your references in order because work experiences and SCMC will take some time to get back to you on your work experiences. And usually the window of applying is between 3 to 4 months. So I would suggest to get all your documents in place before you start applying. Keep thinking about your statement of purpose because as Gazal said here, at least in the Europe side, your statement of purpose is where you can stand out and which is taken into consideration. I would also suggest get as much as experience, whether it's in term of internships or just work ex, because it allows you to get to know reality on ground. As much as like SCMC was great and it was a very intensive program, but it is also a very sheltered life. You need some, in my experience at least, you need some kind of on-ground experience before you do your master's. And I feel it will also confirm what you actually want to do. Because sometimes, and this might happen very rarely, but it did with me, what I did in my undergrad is not what I am working as now. So I would say take some time, don't rush or push yourself. be sure about what you want to do, find your passion, and then work forward. Applying abroad isn't as difficult in terms of the process as you might make it in your mind. It's pretty straightforward, but once get that experience before, whether it's in terms of internships or just volunteer work, do some on-ground work before you actually apply.
Okay. Akanksha, would you like to answer this question?
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with Divya. Your letters of recommendations are essential, and work experiences definitely counts. It puts you in a different standing compared to all of the potential candidates that are there. I think when you're starting to think about it, do tons of research. Think about what you really want to study. For me, I made a table with pros and cons of every school because there's so much out there. Everyone wants you. You are like a cash cow for them. So you need to think about why are you doing this, and what is it that you really want to do? For me, it was cinematography, and I only applied to the best cinematography schools because otherwise it wasn't worth it for me. And for me, I was applying to a fine arts degree. So my portfolio was really important, and I was able to include professional projects, which I think really set me higher because I was working at the time with big brands like Amazon and Coca-Cola, and those things gave me a sort of credential that maybe some other people who are maybe just applying with their college short films didn't have. And regarding personal statement as well, I found it very useful to tailor my essays towards the school that I was applying. So I did research and found out what is their philosophy, what are they trying to do with their program and with their students, and reflected that in my essays, and that was really helpful.
Okay. And Gazal, could you go ahead?
Yeah, I think if you could see, I was really head nodding with Akanksha.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot to think about, not in an overwhelming manner, but I think that oftentimes, especially when we're at 2021, we're just trying to please the world and just be successfully graduated, doing well in the world's eyes. And I think that is a moment when we might be making hasty decisions in a way, because you see your batchmate or someone else doing well on LinkedIn, or they found X job and Y. And I would say, please don't heed into that pressure, because I think a master's degree, if I think you want it to be, can really change your life. I don't mean it in a cliche manner, but I think it really, for me, helped me switch gears and come to something that I really enjoy today, doing today. I found my calling in a way, which is to be doing a PhD and being a nerd, but it helped me figure that out. I think the things to consider is, do you need to in the first place? Because if, for instance, you want to stay in the Indian industries, not everybody needs to have a master's degree from abroad. I think as a society, we really sort of differentially value that or have some pedigree attached to it. But if you see how things are getting or how competitive they are in Delhi or Bombay, there are pretty talented people who never went outside, who are doing their job well. And you might even feel frustrated that why am I being compared to these people? Why am I being paid the same as these people? But those are the harsh realities, I think, if you want to come back to India in some ways. I think if I were to come back in journalism, that would be sort of the case. So, keep that in mind, because no matter LSC, Oxbridge, I've taught students at Ivy Leagues who really intimidated me. But all of them talk the same, honestly. It's not that the Harvard or Yale people were, somehow blowing my mind. So keep that in mind, and have respect also, I think, for tastes or JNU, they're great places. And financially also, I think, maybe viable. The other thing to keep in mind is the finances, because, different countries, education costs differently. America and I believe Australia have 2-year degrees, for instance, so that's going to be doubling the cost. And if you want to emigrate to these countries, please also look in mind what their job environment is like after you graduate, because some countries, are more friendly to you settling down there than others. The UK, when I was doing my master's, just actively discouraged any person settling down or staying back in the UK. The visas were really strict and just harsh institutionally.
It's an exhaustive process.
Yeah. So if you're doing a master's, for instance, to move abroad, keep that in mind, and also think of the country you would actually want to settle down in, because your master's will sort of be the best chance to be introduced to it. If I now want to move to Canada, it's probably going to be hard to do that. And think of places and cities that will make you happy. I think just being in a city, I'm sure Akanksha does not mind Los Angeles, or Divya does not mind Dublin. These are like great big cities. So think of places where you will find your values. I'm talking just in terms of mental health, because moving can be daunting. There is also, I think, when we look at the application itself, there's personal statement, the letters of recommendation, an English language test. I think for some courses in America, if you want to do pure subjects, it's GRE as well. And to streamline it all, there are these free services available. So if you want to just think of them if you're doing a master's. So there's IDP education. There's this place called Tripura that I did not use. IDP is the organization that also conducts the IELTS. And they'll have these free counselors who at least will get your application in order, and you will have someone who's asking you that, hey, did you finish personal statement? Did you finish X? And once you have your offer, they will also fill out your visa form. And that was amazing that someone could do that. I think sometimes they tend to undersell you because they've been paid by universities or certain mid-level universities to drive students towards those universities. So go with, I think, oversell yourselves and go with your ideals in mind and sort of push for yourself that I would like to go in this place. I mean, at SCMC, I know we tend to be really privileged, I think, than the average Indian lot. But I think there's also now mentorship initiatives coming up. I think America has department-wise initiatives where underrepresented people or alumni sort of give you guidance. I just wanted to give a mention to this initiative that some friends of us, some great people at Oxford have started, called Project Edu Access. And if we come from a community that is underrepresented, if you're an Indian Muslim, a Kashmiri, someone from a working class background, or Dalit Bahujan or Adivasi. So they'll provide systematic training for you to make your applications and also look at scholarships. This one, I think I can speak more of being relevant to journalists, is that there are, at least in the UK, scholarships out there, but they're very competitive. And think about it. Would you like to do a master's right after university? That lowers your chances of scholarships because you just don't have the same experience, in a way, because they really want leadership skills. And in the Indian industry, nobody gives you that role early on. But I know a lot of friends who from other countries or different countries are sort of 29, 30, and they're done amazingly for themselves. And now they're on Commonwealth scholarship or chevening. So that is an option, and you can do your master's mid-career. So these are some things to think about.
Okay, coming to experience and learning, were there any specific instances or subjects during your master's where you learned in SCMC came in handy? I know, Gazal, I think you could take this. I know you didn't really take up journalism as a career, but I'm sure there would be something in the field of media where you put in news.
I think that for me, because of the fact that SCMC has 12 modules a semester, I think it's wild. I've seen it anywhere. But why it helps is that almost every job role or even degree I'm applying to, I can create a cluster of that subject area, and then just put that in the CV. Just talk about that. So it just gives you so many talking points. And for me, like politics courses, international relations, etc., those helped, I believe, at some level with my undergraduate degree. My PhD is in media comms, although it's not in journalism. So again, I think just having a journalism degree, at least to them, gave the experience that I know what this is about. But for instance, this department is very theory oriented, which I don't think like we're taught media theory, thankfully, because it's not everybody's cup of tea. Yeah, so I think those components really did help out. And I think you also have an edge because you come from this very practical minded college in the sense that you know what's happening in the world.
Okay. Divya, would you like to take this question?
I think I agree with Gazal. Like the amount of work we did in just the 3 years at Symbiosis was amazing. Like I haven't come across anybody else, very honestly, who's done that amount in 3 years. Like when I tell people that, we had 12 courses every semester, or we did an internship after every semester, they're like, how did you guys like survive? Because I know a couple of undergrads here at Trinity, and they probably go to college an hour or two a day and a total of like five hours a week. And it's still intensive for them. So I am not too sure how we did survive, but we did. And it did prepare us for what was to come. As Gazal said, the variety of courses does help, very honestly, like whether it's history, whether it's political science, whether it was economics, whether it was just sociology or psychology. It does help in what you do next. Like for me, especially to understand consumer behavior, market segments, why things work, why things don't work. A lot of these courses did help. I think she got stuck.
Yeah, host has had a technical issue, so we'll just wait it out. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's fine, no worries.
I can continue and answer the question while we're waiting. So I echo everything that Divya and Gazal said. I think the sheer volume of what we learned was super valuable in terms of picking and choosing and talking about yourself and defining your education. But for me, I think the most valuable part of the entire course was the emphasis on internships and the wide variety that we got to do. I got to do an internship on a TV film set, which was so valuable for me to understand what I wanted to do in on a set, as well as what I didn't want to do on a film set. And then the second one I did was in an ad agency, and that was a completely different ball game. It was more about conceptualizing and pre-production. And it was very, very little bit of it was shooting. So that was also helpful in understanding that maybe I enjoyed both of them, but it was helpful in understanding what I wanted to do versus what wasn't for me. And the liberal arts courses as well, history, sociology, psychology, they were all very useful in helping me pick projects that I wanted to do, films that I wanted to shoot, understand like the various nuances and intricacies of stories and characters. was very valuable.
I just want to add to that, just add to what I was saying as well. I think the different specializations, because what I realize is the media world's very interconnected. Like whether you specialize in journalism, AV, PR, or I'm forgetting the last advertising. Sorry, advertising. You will come across something or the other when you work. You will have an audiovisual requirement on your project, or you will need to do a research in some topic, or just, bad PR or advertising. I think there's so much interconnectivity right now in today's world in all of the fields. Yeah. So I think that really helps.
Keep that in mind. And I'm sorry for the network issues that happened earlier. So moving on to professional endeavors. You all have had a chance to work in so many different roles, organizations, and industries. We would like to know more about your professional journey per se. And maybe you could start off with Divya, please.
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned before, I did start off at a boutique agency. I started off as a copywriter. I worked on brands like Grand Mercure, which is a part of the Accor Hotel Group, Burgoyne, Tifal, and the Imperial Hotel, like a lot of hotels basically. And I started off as a content writer, but because of shortage, I moved on to account management and strategy. I did a lot of social media management and online reputation management and just content strategy on digital media there. Then I moved to another mid-level agency in Gurgaon itself called Creative Street. And I worked on a couple of clients there, I think Twitter was something that I worked a lot on. We were a third party, so we were outsourced and we would work on projects or briefs for them. So that was a lot that I did. And then I went for my master's, and currently I work at this independent creative agency in Dublin called The Public House. And my main brands are Cadbury and Media House. So Media House is this media agency which handles a lot of newspapers like the Independent, Belfast Telegraph, and a couple of others like that. So we do a lot of campaigns for them and a lot of activations. Cadbury is doing this very big activation right now for women's football, so that's great. I think the overall experience from my previous two agencies has really helped me work, and in a way I think SCMC did as well. The culture is very different here. There is an equal importance to your physical health, but your mental health as well. It's not a 16-hour working day. It's not work at your beck and call. It's not a Saturday, Sunday work day, which unfortunately is a culture in India, which does need to, we need to work on as a country. But yeah, I think the one thing I was very appreciative of moving here and working here is that where your focus on your mental health is just as much important as your physical health, which I think as a generation, we do need to be more considerate of.
That's quite intuitive. What about you, Gazal?
Yes, it's a funny journey, like I said, because, I worked with, I think I did like every type of news organization in a way. So I worked first with like a digital news organization. Then I worked with a TV news channel, which at one time was my dream employer. And I quickly realized that maybe the work culture is not for me. And but I met wonderful people through it. Then my final internship was with the Indian Express in Kashmir. It taught me a lot, especially because anybody who wants to, for instance, work at the national political level, Kashmir is always in the news, but I think we bear a responsibility to actually go there, or not, just climb or all turn up there, but read about what is happening. And I think it also really was formative in me applying for a conflict studies master's. While I was doing my part-time degree, was working full-time for a bit with Khabar Lehriya, which was an organization, it's a small news organization. I knew that I could not afford to work with a place that amazing after a master's because you have to think of a loan and whatnot. So before it, I think it was a great experience to be able to work with a place I really admired. It was a case study when we were studying journalism as well. And then after coming here, I think it's all kinds of jobs. One thing to think about, at least in the UK, what it has been is that in some ways, sometimes your experience from India might not count over depending on the industry. They really are very market specific. So they might say that, hey, you do not know anything about the UK financial market if you want to be a business journalist or whatever. So sometimes it can be a reset. But I think if you have the technical skills, you'll always carry them forward. So I did like other different kinds of part-time jobs as well. And slowly I was starting to shift to research. Before I came to do my master's, I picked up this research internship. Then after my master's, after I was done applying for a PhD, which took up a long time in my CV, and I was always worried about having a gap on my CV, but it was COVID and we all needed to chill out. But after that, I did some independent research consulting. And then before I came for my PhD, I was a research fellow at a tech research lab in India, which was a great job role, and I really admired it. And I think they also liked a different perspective because most of them were software engineers. And we published a few papers that was supposed to be for 2 years, but I got funding for my PhD, so I shifted back. And that's mostly it.
That's quite interesting. What about you, Akanksha?
That was super interesting. I didn't know that. So after I left SCMC, unlike most of my batchmates, I didn't move to Mumbai. I moved back home to Bangalore. And I think for me, that was a very good decision because I wasn't worried about, living to pay rent or living to survive. And in that way, I got to save up a little bit of money for masters. And I also got to just think about my work for a little bit. So at first I was freelancing, but then I joined a small production house called Studio 33. And there I did mostly corporate films and branded content. And I learned a lot of technical skills, like lighting and camera technology and new things that were happening in the industry. But I also learned a lot of soft skills, like communicating with clients and collaborators, like working with directors, producers, there are different strategies and ways you work with different people. And those were super valuable skills for me to have before going into a big master's program. And then, so I just graduated from AFI and I've been working freelancing as a cinematographer. I've also been trained as an AC, and also in lighting. So I've been working in different projects.
That's amazing. Okay, so how do you think the industry has changed or evolved from the time you started? I mean, it's been 5 years or so, but how do you think it's changed so far? Akanksha, maybe you can go ahead.
When I started out working in 2017, 2018, it was really demotivating at first to see the lack of women on set, and especially in the camera department, and the limited opportunity for growth and just moving up. So now I'm seeing that change a lot, and it's really amazing to see all these women on set and giving other women the opportunity to grow. And I also think that the indie film industry in India is booming, and in different pockets, not just in Mumbai, and like different cities and regional cinema. And I highly recommend that if you have people whose careers that you're following in any job, reach out to them, DM them, or cold email them, because a lot of them are very open to mentoring you. They want to help other people rise in your career. So it's not as closed off as it was maybe 5-10 years ago.
Okay, nice. What about you, Divya? Would you like to answer this?
I think I do agree. I do agree with Akanksha in terms of mentorship, because say 6-7 years ago, the scene was very different. For some reason, people weren't as open as they are today. So I think reach out to as many people as you can. People will respond, maybe not immediately, but they will get back to you and help you in any way you can. Secondly, at least in my industry, the one thing that is constantly evolving is tech.
Right.
Constantly learn, whether it's blockchain, whether it's AI, whether it's whatever, like meta, like honestly, keep reading, keep researching, keep learning, because what you know today, in 6 months' time, it would have completely changed or developed.
Great. Yeah.
So you need to, as much as you might not like reading, it's the only way you're going to keep up with the industry, because it is fast-paced, no matter where you are in the world. So keep reading, keep learning.
We will keep that in mind. You, Gazal?
Yeah. So again, trigger warning, journal people. But I think I entered SCMC wanting to be a broadcast journalist. And by the time I left, it was almost dead, in the sense that the remaining independent news organizations that exist in India, they're just like, they're on very shoestring budgets, unless you want to, of course, like work with like fire on screen and 20 panelists. Or the other channels, at least the channels I wanted to be a part of, they just like dropped off one by one. And I don't think I need to expand on what journalism in India has been like. I think, but internally, I think what has also changed is that because of social media, some of the hierarchical relationships within journalism, like Akanksha or Divya said, are also, I think, being challenged. Because if your news organization is going to have old graphics and this boring way of writing and all that, it is in a way, at least, succumb to the tidal waves of like Instagram audiences or Twitter audiences. So I think that has really changed. And I think as a young person, I think that's a great avenue to also look at, because there are so many digital news channels that are coming up, that are popping up. Based on the platform itself. Here I scroll through TikTok and there's so much news. I know you cannot scroll through TikTok, but like Instagram Reels probably has that, or channels will shift towards that. And I think it's fun to, I think I was reading about an SCMC alumni, Nanika, right? Who just sold her Wordle equivalent app to the Indian Express, and now she's working with them. So I really admire that, and like that's a wonderful thing she did. So I think there will be creative outlets and outbursts, and people cannot ignore them.
Right. Okay. So coming back to college days, SCMC students have come from all over the world, from diverse backgrounds, right? How did the cosmopolitan culture of the college and the city mold you as a person? The life of a Pune person and all that. Maybe Divya, you can go ahead with this.
Wow. So I did my schooling in Saudi Arabia at an all-girls school. And when I first came to Pune, I was 17, never have studied in a co-ed or lived by myself. I came from a very sheltered life. Coming here, I mean, like, obviously, like, you're no more sheltered. I mean, there is like your education sheltering, but life in general, you aren't sheltered as much. And I think that is very honestly great. Pune taught me to be self-sufficient, independent, and survival instincts. It really does instill in you survival instincts. You can be in the worst of situations. You could have been sleeping for 3 hours a day, and you'll still survive and make it the next day. So it somehow, I think now in today's time, I don't stress as much as I would, because it'll happen. Things do have a way of happening. And the more you stress, the more you're just suffering. So yeah, I think that's about it.
Thank you for that. Akanksha, would you like to take up this?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't know how you guys selected the panel, but Gazal and I were roommates for like 2 years.
Oh, that's great.
And I think it's very interesting that as SCMC students, we spend like this crux of between like childhood and adulthood at this place. It is like a bubble, honestly, in a lot of ways. But you have this like mix of so many students from different backgrounds, completely different from your childhood, and you have the opportunity to choose how you want to live and the practices you want to adopt into your life and things that you want to throw away from your lifestyle. And I think for me, same as Divya, like, you learn independence, you learn to grow up in a place that is outside of your comfort zone in every way, professionally, culturally, personally. And yeah, it was like transformative for me.
That's nice. What about you guys? I'm sure both of you have something to say.
I think, to start off with that, see, first we met on like assisting a film project, like a student film project. Okay. So it's a strange and amazing place to tell like that, you meet people. I'll not repeat myself. I really appreciate the cosmopolitan character and the fact that like our classmates came from like all parts of India and in a lot of ways, so many other parts of the world. One thing I really appreciate or appreciated about, I think, my the makeup of my college as well as Pune is that I think it's, at least Pune, I think it's a safer city for women compared to, let's say, North Indian campuses, for instance, like Delhi University, where you are in a PG and then someone locks you from outside at 10 o'clock because your body is somehow, just at risk. I really, I think, liked starting that childhood to adulthood dynamic in an environment that just felt safer and a bit less policed, at least outside of college, and I think within the college, I really appreciate the fact there was like 60 to 70% women, and like we weren't like an IIT batch where I'd have to struggle to find others. So I think it's the women around me that really taught me that I think other environments where equality or workplace sexism, for instance, that is so casually accepted is not okay. Or like we started at a very healthy, normal amongst the women, at least, that this is how all of us deserve to be treated, or these are conversations we're having with ourselves. So I really appreciate that.
That's nice. What is the one thing that every SCMC student must experience at least once in their life? Yeah. I think Gazal, you can take this on.
I'm the worst person to speak to this about because I think that most days I think in hindsight, just worried about like meeting some college deadline. So like one of my best friends, he would just like buzz off to Goa. And he'd be like, why don't you come with me? And I'd be like, we have to do this interview. So I was just this worried girl. And I think ironically or unironically, I would say the Clover Center in camp, where you have all these textiles, because I love all of that. So I don't think I'm a great recommendee.
Okay. Akanksha, what about you? If you have a similar experience, then...
Yeah, I do. I'm a terrible person for recommendations in Pune, but I don't know. Yeah, I think you should skip me.
Okay, what about you? Do you have anything specific that you'd like to suggest?
Look, very honestly, I'm sure the environment has changed way too much since we were there in 2016, 2017. So I won't like give you specific recommendations, but I will say that I know college is intense, but take some time out for you and your friends, because it's not coming back.
Right. Right.
As much as you want to do well and, be successful in life, these 3 years aren't coming back. So take some time off. Go on trips. Go on night outs. I know it's a college form, so.
Right. If you could give one piece of advice to your college self, what would it be? Divya, you could go ahead with this because I kind of know what Gazal might say.
I don't know. I mean, very honestly, I think it would just be don't rush. Like, take your time, see what you want to do. There's not much because I eventually did what I wanted to do. So, and life has it happens, and you reach where you have to be eventually.
Right. Okay. Okay. We'll still go to you, Gazal. Is there something that you give a piece of advice to your college self?
Oh, I think that my college self is just very nervous and probably half the time trying to figure out, like, am I doing the things right and is this enough? And yeah, I would just say take it easy. I think that I think you do. If you're attending college now, you might not see it from the other side, but it's going to be okay. I think most of us actually are pretty lucky when you look at like Indian families or like we come from a lot of privilege, and society isn't like radical right now. You'll be okay. So please be kind to yourself and please be kind to the people around you. They're not your competitors, they're your friends. And just have fun. Yeah.
We'll keep that in mind. Akanksha, you?
Yeah, obviously everything they said. I think when I think back to myself again, like Gazal, I was like constantly stressed out. And I think I would tell myself to not worry about what everyone else is doing because that doesn't matter. You're on your own journey and your journey is going to be different from everyone else's journey. So just things will fall into place, like Divya said. You just have to I think the one thing you owe yourself is to like figure out what you are interested in, what you want to do, and like follow that no matter where it leads you. I think so for me, I was constantly worried about what everyone else was doing, and I was like, if I'm not doing that, am I good enough? But I was, and we all are, and we're still dealing with those thoughts even now. But the more you focus on yourself, I think the easier it gets.
Okay. With that, we'll open the floor for questions. We'll start with batch of 23. You can kindly switch on your mics and ask your question. I don't think I can see batch 23. Okay, I don't think batch 23 is here. Batch 24, we'll move to yours. If you all have any question, you can unmute your mic and we have guests here to answer your questions. Okay, we'll give it a minute. Okay, I don't think there's a question. So with that, we come to an end with today's session. And before we end this hour-long session, I'd like to thank our alumni
for taking the time. Someone is waving at the back, but I might be wrong. Sorry.
Pardon me? Oh, okay. Guys, you'll have to come in front, and I think they're just clapping because the session's ending. I'm not sure what's happening. Okay. So yeah, I'd like to thank our alumni for taking the time to be here and guide all of us through our misery. And thank you everyone for attending this session. Personally, I found it very insightful and helpful. Thank you, goodbye, and have a safe weekend.
Okay. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.